Mr. Drill, are we ready to go at 7 or are we waiting on anything tonight?
I believe we have all 5 of you, and it looks like most of the folks that need to be on to give reports are here.
Awesome.
So-
In about 30 seconds, we will fire it out.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Drill, are we ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then we will call the November 8th, 2021 meeting to order. The regular session of Cascade School District Board of Directors will now convene via Zoom. The laws governing boards of education require that their work be done where the public can observe their actions. Please remember that this is the board's meeting for the public to observe. Others may participate only with approval of the board. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening, everybody. So first, the visitors list. I ask every time. Cheryl, do we need to do anything here?
No,
No.
I'm writing down names.
Got it. Thank you so much. Number 4, approval of the minutes of the October 11th, 2021 meeting. Anybody?
Can I do it? I wasn't there.
You can do it.
Okay, I approve the October 11th, or is it the 11th board meeting minutes?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the October 11th, 2021 board meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 5, prioritize the agenda. Mr. Drill.
I think we can go straight down the list. It should be just fine for the evening.
All right, you got it. Then we'll move on to 6A, which is the superintendent's report. Mr. Drill.
Good evening, everybody. Good to see you. I have my report. You have my report in front of you. The second page is also the enrollment report. We talked about this a month ago. We were about a month in, and now we've got about 8 weeks under our belts, and our enrollment continues to be slightly ahead of where we thought it would be. We're about 40 to 45 students higher than we were in 2019, and we're almost 90 students higher than we were last year in 2020. That is unusual. Most districts across the state have lost students due to the pandemic. People have gone online, or they have decided to homeschool, particularly their younger students. So to have more students than we had, that's unexpected. That will probably bring a little more money to our school district. As the time goes on, those numbers adjust. And as Scott can explain to you in a better detail than I can, those numbers make adjustments. The state will finally catch up with the numbers that we have and how much money we get. And you will see that reflected in our finances along the way for this year. I'd like to remind you about our conversation continuing for the last 3 months around local control. Over the past 4 weeks, I've met with the Department of Ed, the governor's office, the governor herself. I'm again one of those 25 or 30 superintendents that get to meet with the governor. And that was a high topic about being able to gain some local control. I believe there's going to continue to be some conversations around some sort of a metric type system, like kind of the way we had metrics used last spring. If you reach a certain point, then some changes will start to happen with regard to masks and how we handle schools and COVID and that kind of thing. We are not there yet. I can't imagine that starts to happen until after the first of the year, after the holidays. But that's my guess. So we'll have to wait and see. We generally get some information and then you kind of wait and see what happens. In the next couple of weeks, I'll be on a Senate subcommittee meeting explaining about the opening of school. I'll also at that point talk about local control as well. So a number of opportunities coming, a number of opportunities in the past. We've been politely told no. However, there's finally some movement, much different than 4 weeks ago, about hopefully taking a look at this metric system. So that's a good thing. You're going to hear tonight from a couple of our folks that work at Cascade about how we're doing academically. And I think we've done some really good things in spite of the pandemic, but we can always improve, and that's a good thing. The other thing is that the modular that will go into Turner is in the queue over at Modern Building, which is a great thing. And our plan is still to have that thing in there by January. We hope at the beginning of January, but unforeseen fun, with all kinds of supply chain problems and everything else could make that come in a little bit later, but we're hopeful that it won't. Scott has done a great job with the finances, making sure that things are going. Joe Lule is kind of clearing the path for us here daily. But the person that kind of does it outside of this area for us is Tom Lovell, who has met with the city of Turner, met with Modern, even had to meet with the city of Salem because apparently their drinking water supply runs underground next to the creek at Turner Elementary. And we were originally told that, yeah, we can't do anything. It's going to take 60 days for us to come out and locate that pipe. We just don't want you to hit the pipe. Tom basically told them that, well, that's fantastic. We're going to go ahead and start anyway, since it's our property. And, that's what it is. 48 hours later, the city of Salem was out. And I think Lisa Iverson told me today that it was 6 people from the city of Salem, 5 watched and 1 dug. So that's kind of how that goes. And they found the pipe they were looking for. And lo and behold, we were not in the way of the pipe. So life is good. And I think we will be able to move forward with that and do it as quickly as possible. Finally, I'd like to just thank every staff person, our associations, our administrators, our classified folks, our certified folks. I think you are really aware that regular school that hasn't happened for 18 to 20 months. We were able to get some school in last spring, but the school as we remember it pre-COVID, that's what we're really trying to attempt that. Layer on kids having not been in school for that period of time, layer on the pandemic, layer on the politics, layer on the mask mandates. And what you have is a lot of people that are working just their tails off to try to make this thing go. So our hats off to those folks. You have seen a couple of districts take some school days off with kids. And at the moment right now, Cascade, we're working at trying to come up with dates around professional development time and dates that are not going to affect kids in school. Our kids need us right now. Universally, our administrators say to me, we had our administrative meeting, monthly meeting today, and they universally keep saying that kids are happy to be at school. And so we don't want to miss out on that. We have so many kids that rely on our food service. The warmth here, we have kids that are homeless. We have kids that don't have heat. So really don't want to miss days for school with kids, but we will try to come up with ways to be as creative as we can to help our staff kind of just deal with all the pressure that's going on. Our substitute rate is low. There's just no coverage for subs, and our administrators, our teachers have doubled up, and it is, it's been difficult. So we are very hopeful that things will smooth themselves out. But in the meantime, we'll try to do as much as we can and help our kids as much as we can. So any questions?
Yeah, Darren, I have a question on just kind of your lobbying efforts for local control and
Yeah.
back on the metrics. You said that it was kind of a collective group of superintendents. Is that more or less kind of local school districts or bordering school districts, or kind of who do they look like?
They look like everybody. I mean,
Okay.
when you even have metro area school superintendents talking about a way to see the metrics come back so we can make some adjustments, I think that's a telltale sign that people are just tired. They're tired of working with the metric process or waiting for a metric process, dealing with that process. And in the meantime, you know, all the superintendents, local ones, folks from the eastern side of the state, the southern side of the state, in the metro area, on the coast, they continue to say that, you know, kids will do what they need to do. And we really haven't had a ton of problems. We've had a few kids in each building that just struggle with the masks. Like we've talked to you before, we've come up with ways to do mask breaks. We're outside as much as we can because the rules are a little more vague about PE and particularly recess, about people that are busy and active. We don't want anybody to be choking on their masks. So that has really been a collective effort. And that I think that information and that request kind of starts to grow, particularly as you watch the Delta variants numbers start to bring the numbers down. So we're hopeful with that. I think there is some concern that if we get low enough, we take masks off. And if we happen to pop back up, trying to get everybody to put them back on might even be more difficult than we did here at the beginning of the school year. But once again, you know, we are kind of beholden to what the state of Oregon is telling us to do. They're going to withhold finances. And, you know, so far, so good across the state. While a lot of people made a lot of noise about it, every school district is following along as best they can so that they can have kids in school and have the money to take care of that. So it is a collective effort, David, no question. Other questions?
Any other questions for Mr. Drill? Nope. All right. Thank you, Mr. Drill.
Yep.
Moving on, 6B Finance Director's Report. Mr. Pillar.
Good evening, everyone. You have my financial report in front of you. You will see that the projected ending fund balance is right where it should be. I think last month it was a little low, and this month it's coming in at right around 3 million. Because of that slight enrollment gain, plus a combined with the statewide enrollment going down somewhat, the amount per student goes up for us, and so that has been a boom for us. We are expecting about 750,000 more in the state school fund support this year than we budgeted for, and it's not reflected on this report yet. So subsequently, I think that ending fund balance should come in a little higher than 3, where it's sitting right now. However, I do recommend caution. If there's one thing that we've all kind of figured out in this age of COVID, is to, you know, don't count on anything until it comes in the door. So I would recommend that we not get all super excited about those numbers until we actually see them in the coffers. We are, as Mr. Drill mentioned, we're going to be spending some money on some capital projects. That project out at Turner Elementary with the new modulars coming from construction excise dollars, which is a good use of those funds. I think we've had a good run with the construction excise tax here in the district, and so subsequently it feels good to be able to put that back out into the community by way of, you know, buying a nice modular system from a local vendor. As Mr. Drill mentioned, Mr. Lovell has been working really hard cutting through a lot of red tape and getting that accomplished by calendar year end, and barring supply issues, I think we're going to have that taken care of. Finally, The selection committee has reviewed all the applications for the CMGC for the junior high seismic project. As I mentioned in an earlier report, I think we had 11 people or 11 firms coming out and doing the walkthrough. However, only 2 proposed, and the winner was a clear winner for us. It was a company called DSL out of Salem, Oregon. So it's a local company. They've done a lot of school seismic projects, mostly on the coast, Lincoln County, Tillamook County, and some areas in Southern Oregon as well. So they have really good reviews. I've checked in with a bunch of people, and as Tom has as well. So we've issued the intent to award the contract to them on Friday. As soon as the time frame for that wait is over, we'll be putting together a formal contract with them to get working on that. Again, we're going to be doing construction on that junior high seismic project starting as soon as students are out for the summer. It's going to be a tight squeeze, and this particular project is a little bit more complex. It's removing some exterior and or interior walls and then strengthening them to the foundation. So it's a little bit different than some of the wrapping projects we've done in the past, but I fully expect to get that done on time and on budget. And so far the costs for materials and so much have kind of retracted a little bit. And as long as we can get some good labor pool out there, we should be able to get it done by September. That's all I have. Any questions?
Hey, Scott, I'll ask a question. I know these are
Sure.
different jobs from the Cloverdale and the Turner seismic updates, but what are you seeing for price as far as, I know, again, you can't do, it's different size buildings, different everything, but in your opinion, are we looking at, 10% more than we paid on those other ones? Are we 50% more?
Oh, it is a different job. We actually got a really good price on the modular building because we were able to piggyback off of a contract that I found at Salem Kaiser. So Salem Kaiser has been using this contract, and in that contract, they've had a escalation clause of about 4% every year. Okay. So if they bought a modular last year, which I'm sure they did, from Modern, we are paying that price plus 4%, which is not a huge markup, which is good for us, obviously. In terms of the seismic retrofit, the pricing for the CMGC management of that has been real stable and is very comparable to other pricing that we've done in the prior jobs. So the management portion of that is roughly about the same. We haven't actually seen much of a price pressure in that area as well. Okay. However, it's really too soon to tell on the grant portion of it because so much of this work at the junior high is going to be subcontracted out. So we have to wait and see. Again, we have to pay prevailing wage. But however, prevailing wage is also capped. So, the wage costs are going to be pretty consistent, I think. Okay. But material costs will be the big driver. And it's a little too soon to tell.
No, understood. Okay, thank you.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Do you think the grant will cover the cost, or are we going to have to put in some of our own fundage?
No, I expect the grant to cover the cost. We worked with our engineers, and they've done all the schematics, and we had that very conversation. I think it was Thursday when they were last out, and we did another walkthrough through the campus, and we talked about ways to get at it. And we hope to see a little bit of some extra in there to allow us to work from the exterior side. For instance, we also need to do some roof replacement. We're hoping for some strong underlayment, but we expect that to happen. So I'm fully expecting, at least at this portion, to get in under budget.
Okay, good. Thank you.
If that changes, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Pillar.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. 6C, high school principals report. Mr. Rasmussen.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
I'm good.
All right. Hey, I'd like to ask you if you have any questions over my board report, and I'd like to do something just a little bit different today. Any questions? We have some unique opportunities and some accomplishments listed there on the report. Any questions about that?
No.
All right.
No, I
well,
think we're good.
What I'd like to do tonight is, first of all, highlight some people who are just doing some amazing work. First of all, I would like to thank the administrative team at the high school. Tony Walisa has done some amazing work as CTE. She just acquired another grant. Mr. Woodbrawl is doing a great job with our student management and following all the protocols for COVID. And Tim Ganfield is absolutely taking care of every single detail when it comes to athletics. And I'm sure he's excited to share some information with you about that. But one more person among many who are doing great work at the high school is Megan Torres. She is our new activities coordinator this year. And I'd actually like to, I've invited her to share with you a little bit what's been going on in student council. And hopefully we can maybe get you to hear from some of the kids as well tonight. So Megan, take it away.
Thanks, Pete. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. So it's been my absolute pleasure to take over activities this year. I didn't know I'd enjoy it so much, but it really has been just a real pleasure. I have such a great group of kids. And when I mentioned this opportunity to talk to you guys tonight, not everybody could come tonight. So they said, why don't we, they do what they do best. They make these videos, and we have a kid named Colton Quarteros who does the video announcement editing. So he, over the last week or so, videotaped each of the kids saying a little bit about what we've been doing, and he made a video. It's up on YouTube, but I'm going to try to share it with you guys right now. So do I have the ability to share my screen? Looks like I do. Okay, so we will play this. Now, he made it 7 minutes long. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm going to play about 5 minutes because at the end, they love to do the bloopers. And I'm like, you know what? That's a little much, guys. But here we go. And let me know if there's any problems hearing
Hi, my name
it.
is Ariel Tobiason.
And I'm Natalie Federico.
We're both on ASB. One of the first events we did this year, we had a normal freshman orientation, which we had about 40 student leaders this year to help us out.
With these leaders, we were able to show the freshmen around the school and answer any questions they had or worries about their freshman year.
We basically just gave them tips for high school. And here's some pictures below.
Hi, my name is Kyra Arneson. I'm a senior here at Cascade, and I've been on student council for the last 4 years. Hi, my name is Tegan Sanders. I'm a junior here at Cascade, and I am the public relations officer on ASB. One of the activities we were able to do during homecoming was lip sync. So in this class competition, all the different grades compete in a performance in front of the whole school. So this year's theme was decades, the freshmen being 50s, the sophomores being 60s, the juniors being 90s, and the seniors being 80s. So the people that are in charge of this, and more per grade, are our leadership class and student council. We are the ones that are in charge of monitoring the practices as well as creating the dance. And so in the morning, in September, we would meet up around 7 a.m. and we would all wear a mask and social distance as we practice the performance. The only exception is when we actually perform, we didn't have to wear a mask because of the guidelines. Another activity we did this homecoming week was Macho Volleyball. That is a tournament-style volleyball game with boys from each grade going against each other, and the winner of that tournament gets to go against a staff team, and the winner gets like candy. It's a really fun experience for the guys at our school.
Hey Cascade School Board, this is Marie. And this is Cammie. And we're gonna talk about Coronation and Homecoming.
For Coronation, the student leaders sent out emails for the voting process, and when the court was picked, they planned out the setup for the main gym, and they decorated the gym for the court, and the court practiced, and the next day they ran through the ceremony twice because of COVID. We wanted everyone to be able to see, so we had 2 ceremonies, and the court went out for lunch afterwards as a celebration.
Yeah.
Well said, Cammie. I really like that. Good job. The next day on Saturday for homecoming, student council showed up at 9 a.m. to set up for the dance, and so we had tents and space heaters, and we set up decorations, the DJ stand. People were going and getting the balloon arch and putting the balloons on the arch. It was a good time. The wind was blowing pretty strong, but luckily it was sunny and no rain. And then later that night, it was the dance, and it went pretty smoothly. We had a station at the front. The parking lot was blocked off, and people were being checked into the dance with their tickets and their partners, and it went pretty smoothly. We had police there for just like surveillance. It was pretty good. Yeah.
Well said, Marie.
Thank you, Kimmy.
My name is Camus. I'm a senior. I play football. Our homecoming game, we played Woodburn, and it was pretty cool because at halftime, all the princesses came out on Corvettes, and they announced the top three, which was Ariel Tobiasen, Natalie Federico, and the winner was Amy Oliva, and that was pretty cool because there was balloons, and they were all wearing pretty dresses, and we're sitting on top of Corvettes, and then we kicked Woodburn's butt. So
I'm Brady, and I'm a senior. And after the football game, we also had a bonfire, and it was great. It was also kind of hot, but it was great.
My name's Tyler, and I'm a sophomore.
My name's Taylor, and I'm also a sophomore.
And we're building an RC track for our community service project.
All right. Hi, my name's Matthew Gardner, and I'm a sophomore on student leadership.
Hi, my name is Daniel Mooney, and I am a sophomore on student leadership.
Hi, my name is Sophia, and I'm a sophomore on student leadership.
And our project this trimester is fixing up the courtyard.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Abby.
I'm JC.
My name's Tegan.
I'm Maria.
I'm Kara.
And I'm Melody.
And for our semester project, we're going to create an inspirational mural in the varsity girls' locker room to help boost positivity and self-esteem.
Yay!
Hi, my name is Arizona Galvin. I am a freshman on student council, and I'm doing appreciation gifts for the bus drivers in the district.
My name is Cash Beller. I'm a freshman class officer. Brady Rasmussen and I are working on replacing the Welcome to Cougar Country sign that was recently damaged.
Hello, my name's Julie, and my partner's Hani, and we're sophomores. Our project is writing letters to seniors in retirement homes.
And my name is Colton Corteros. I am the ASB treasurer, and I also work on the video announcements. We upload a new video every other Friday, and we include important information such as school events, clubs, and other announcements. But we also like to include a snippet of the fun we have making the videos.
Hi, I'm Brady. Oh. Okay, I'm just not going to say hi. I think that throws me off. I never just say hi.
Hey, my name's... Hey. This is too much pressure. You do it. Hey, guys. I'm going to pee my pants.
Hey, Cascade School Board.
I have the tiny microphone.
Okay, I'll spare you guys the rest of it. Hold on, let me make sure I pause it. It does go on and on.
Hi, my.
So this is actually a public video on YouTube. So if you want to watch the last couple minutes, you're welcome to get onto YouTube and look up Cascade High School, and you'll find it up there. But they had a lot of fun making it, and like I said, a great group of kids. So if you guys have any questions for me, really the goal this year is just to try and make school as normal as we possibly can. And you know, we've done some accommodations, they mentioned in the video, but you know, the assemblies we had to accommodate just because of, you know, numbers of people. But I think things have gone as smoothly as they possibly can. So anyway, any questions for me?
I just want to say great job. I hear nothing but positive. Very good.
Well, that's great. Thanks, Ruth.
Yeah. One of my favorite things is always having the kids come into the meetings to help get us energized. And this is fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
That was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good.
Thank you, guys.
Megan. Appreciate you bringing that to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Any other questions, Mr. Rasmussen? Anything else from you?
No, we just appreciate your time, and we'll keep working hard to give our kids the fullest experiences possible, as well as the best education possible.
Wonderful. And if you have more videos in the future, they're welcome.
Yes.
That's great. Appreciate it. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Moving on is D, junior high principal's report. I think that's, hang on, I think it's Mrs. Leday. Yep, Mrs. Leday.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I also want to do a quick shout out. I very much want to appreciate my staff. They are going above and beyond. They don't run and hide when Mrs. Gates and I come down and knock on their door to see if they're willing to substitute, because substitutes are hard to find right now. And so we're doing a lot of begging to get people to help us out. And so I appreciate that they are willing to step up more often than not. We're doing a lot of AVID. Normalcy is kind of what we're aiming for, and I appreciate the high school going that route. And AVID has been something the junior high has done for quite a few years, and we have many new staff, plus just reviewing the old good techniques. And I need to do a major shout out to Alexa Waller. She's our AVID site coordinator, and she has done a great job at late starts, showing our staff the different techniques, how to organize binders. A few weeks ago, we learned how to take notes, and she showed us all through note taking how to fold a fitted sheet, which was a great skill to have, because many of us, especially the men in our group, had no idea that they don't just have to ball it up. And then last week she did, for our late start, the Costa level of questioning, and she brought in donuts and managed to teach us how to do questions with donuts. So that was a definite perk for the staff, and she does a great way of energizing our staff as we go. One last shout out, Arnie Lauder has done an amazing job with sports, and I think that's the biggest way of normalcy for our kiddos. Almost 200 kids were doing fall sports, and we just started wrestling and girls basketball. He is constantly revamping the schedules and the busing and trying to find referees, because right now we don't even have basketball referees. So he's definitely going above and beyond and putting in lots of hours, just trying to make sure our kids get a season. So I definitely need to do a shout out to him. And last of all, one more thing that we're going to do, we normally used to do class competitions, staff versus students. And the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, we're going to do a dodgeball tournament. Each grade is going to contribute 4 or 5 kids, and we're going to have staff members and end up with some dodgeball competition to see who gets to claim the, championship rights for the year. So any other questions?
No question. I'll make a comment on the part of the sports, Mrs. Leday. I'd second that about. I thought it went well. I have an 8th grader that's playing the football, and Coach Sandy and Bernard did a great job. They were undefeated, kind of like our varsity currently is. The last team actually canceled on us, didn't want to play us, so the coaches are loud. I'm not sure who, but they organized another game last minute to play Philomath, and we beat them as well. So it was a good.
Yeah, no, it was great. Yeah. Thank you. Anything else?
Can you explain to me in the reading part of it what RACES stands for? You've got the wicker in the AVID part.
Yeah. RACES is a format for writing paragraphs that cite textual evidence. That's the big thing. It used to be when you used to teach reading or a subject, describe your favorite character, and they would just say Wilbur from Charlotte's Web. And now you have to do a lot more to prove different things. Why is Wilbur a great pig? Well, he's great because of all these things. So the R means to restate the question. The A is answering the question. The C is citing the evidence. So where in the text did you find that he's a great pig? And then the E is explaining what makes him a great pig from what you cited. And then S is basically summarizing everything that they've done. So it's a lot more steps for kids to have to prove in their writing anymore. And we have all of our teachers in content areas and English classes using this format, because the more they do it in the nonfiction settings, the better off we are. So I appreciate all the different, I just saw a health class was doing a RACES format, and I saw a science class was doing a RACES format to answer questions. So it's going to help us all out down the road.
Great. Sounds complicated, but good. Thank you.
It is, but it's good stuff.
Yes.
Mrs. Leday, I have a question for you. On the at the top, you did the ABC rewards. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I think it's important that we reward the kids that get the A, Bs, and Cs. But let me ask you this: do the kids who don't make the cut, are they incentivized to try harder when they are not part of that group being rewarded? Does it incentivize the kids that aren't involved?
So for the harvest party, they had to be passing all but one class because we kind of did a last minute thing. And let me tell you, those kids were working hard to get to that dance. Because that was a big deal for them to get to a dance for the first time in, a few years. Yeah, it was a good thing. So
Okay, so it's encouraging the kids that aren't making the cut to put in the extra effort to get on that list. Wonderful.
Yes, and we're trying to give them enough notice so it's not just you don't have an opportunity to get there.
Right, well, it's too late already. Right. Okay.
Right.
Okay, and then last, if you have notes on how to fold that fitted sheet, I would take those.
Well, Mr. Thompson, by the end, he was rolling his up in a ball, so he gave up. So his notes
Okay,
didn't
fair
work,
enough.
but it was good. Yeah.
All right, perfect. Any other questions? Nope. All right, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, moving on is E, Athletic Director's Report. Mr. Ganfield.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's been, hopefully you have your report or my report in front of you. It's been nice to get back to some semblance of a normal rhythm of just the sports season. And obviously last year was not a normal rhythm, but this year it's been nice to get back to that. And with that, I mean, you look at our participation numbers, they're starting to come back. They took, last year was rough getting everybody there and trying to make sure everybody was engaged. But I'll say that the majority of our sports are back to normal levels. We're still working on a couple of them. You can see boys and girls soccer. We had some coaching changes, so sometimes that takes a little bit of work to get back up to where we need to be. But really happy with the coaching staffs that we have in place with the work that they have done, and especially academically and some of the other things that we're doing, but they have all worked really hard to get back to what we consider our normal, with not only the academic expectations, but also the athletic expectations. So that's been good. And it's nice, like I said, to get back into a normal rhythm. We're working on closing out our fall season right now, and which is hard to believe that next Monday we start with our first winter practices already. But right now we're working on closing up what, for the most part, I thought was a really successful fall season. We had both soccer teams made it to a play-in game. We had our cross-country group grow in numbers and set a ton of PRs, and I was really pleased with their performance at districts. Football won their playoff game on Friday. They have another playoff game this next Friday. It's at 7:00 at SIO. And then, of course, hopefully everybody was able to tune in on Saturday, but our volleyball team won a state title on Saturday, and what a great community event that was. That volleyball team just rocked it. I mean, it was so much fun to be in the gym, and it was just a great experience. Happy for the coaches, happy for the players, happy for the community. It was a great environment. There's a ton of people there, and so we we showed out. I mean, I had an OSAA person come up and compliment our whole group on the evening. So it was a lot of fun. It was hopefully we continued with the football season, but it's been a good fall season so far, and I look forward to more for the winter season. Looking at the report, did you have any specific questions for me or anything else?
Congratulations to the girls volleyball. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's their first one. The first one in school history from volleyball.
Wow.
So that was pretty cool. Yeah, so we've got some celebrating to do. I'm not going to divulge the plans yet because we're working on it, but those ladies and everybody else involved deserve a celebration. So we're going to work on that this week, and I will make public our plans here within the next day, but they deserve it. And what a great group of young ladies. They represent us really well.
Yeah.
Be sure and let us know. Be sure and let us know.
I will, absolutely.
Okay.
On the emphasis on student athletes, I absolutely support that. Thank you for putting that in there. Are those, as we're placing there, we have 11th, 10th, 5th. Are those good numbers we're seeing relative to where we've been, or how are those?
I would say yes, they're good. They're based on the term prior to the season. So they take the GPA from the term prior. That was probably one of the bigger things that we're trying to get back into a normal rhythm of. Last year, we had to be flexible with grades. And on a normal year, they must have at least 2 point and not failing any classes at any point. And so my normal rhythm for checking grades, I send out a letter at the beginning of the term, kind of letting everybody know at the 3-week mark, we check grades. Anybody who's deficient, we give a warning letter to, call home, call the kids in. And then at the 6-week mark, then we remove kids from activities until their grades are where they need to be, right? But I also send weekly, I'll say I ask my secretary, Robin, to do it for me, but she sends out grade checks weekly to coaches for their team, so they know exactly where their kids stand in all their classes. That's been great. Honestly, the hard work with the coaches and then talking to the kids and all that stuff, calling home. I can think of maybe 1 or 2 of my athletes that I had to hold out for a period of time out of all my kids. So I was really pleased because that's getting back into the normal routine. Last year, it was kind of like, please pass your classes. They, honestly, with just the online portion and everything, it was a challenge. So this year, it's back to more normal. Yes, we're watching grades. Yes, you need to be in class. You cannot miss any part of the day and be eligible. So it's more normal. It took some time for them to get used to it, but they've adjusted and they seem to be doing really well. Back to your kind of your original question, yeah, we're going to keep pushing. And it's interesting by sport, like volleyball gets 10th place for a 371 GPA.
Yeah.
Which would land them maybe in one of the other sports as a 1 or a 2, but it is by sport. So, and again, I'm pretty proud of those numbers. We keep pushing though. If you're going to be an athlete, I expect you to be a really good student too. So.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Ganfield.
You bet.
Moving on is F, Elementary Principals Report. Mrs. Ganfield.
Sorry, Tim and I were doing the switcheroo here. Hi, I included a ton of data and numbers in my board report to you based on questions that I heard being asked in the October board meeting. And so I hope you found that informational, but I also wanted to share with you some of our diagnostic results from our math assessments. And I want to thank Katie Ranzoni, our math coach. She is doing an amazing job of helping us implement this new curriculum. She's helping us dig into data, and we are spending our PLCs on Monday doing all of this assessment and data work with our new math curriculum. Overall, students at Amsville, there was kind of a general trend that students are about a year behind, according to the iReady diagnostic, in math skills. So out of 554 students that were enrolled at the time of the assessment, we had 538 students assessed. And that would be because some of our students in some of our special ed programs are unable to test, or they are still in pre-academic skills. So that would account for for that gap in numbers. And Katie did a really good job of tracking down students who had been absent. So we had 3% of our students, which equaled 16 kids who were above grade level. We had 27 students, or 5% of our students overall, who were at or early grade level, meaning for their current year. The bulk of the students fit into the 1 grade level below, which was 53% of all students, which equaled 284. Two grades below was 27%, 143 total students. And interestingly enough, the bulk of that is at our 2nd grade level, which I found interesting in that our 2nd graders have not had a normal year of school yet due to the COVID pandemic. And so that is where we are seeing the biggest impact in being below skills. And then we have 13% of tested students, which equals 68 students who assessed at 3 or more grade levels below. Also interesting information that we had at kindergarten, the highest percentage of students were below grade level in algebraic thinking. In grade 1, 97% of the students were below grade level in number operations. Also grade 2 below in number operations as 95%. And then grades 3, 4, and 5 were their highest percentage of below grade level was in the area of geometry. And so what that data does is it really helps our teachers kind of narrow down where they want to do some gap filling and really focus their instruction. The other thing that teachers are doing is they are trying on some of the digital assessments, which will help them create individual pathways so that when students are doing independent math work, the iReady program creates a completely individualized set of tasks for them to do based on their deficiencies. So we're seeing a lot of positive things come with this new program. And Matt announced today that we're going to get ready and do the same curriculum analysis and adopt ELA. So we're going to get rolling and do quite a bit of curriculum, but we're also working really hard on making sure that our kids feel safe and welcome at school. And one of the ways that we are going to increase that with our ESSER funding is we're going to reconnect with Playworks, who we used 7 years ago. It's been an interesting, we've been saying people forgot how to behave during the pandemic, and we see that mostly expressed at recess time. And so Playworks will help us reorganize our recess time, reorganize our playground. It will help us gain back instructional minutes because we won't have to do problem solving and discipline post recess. And so we're going to re-engage with them digitally first, and then in February, they'll come out and start training with us. Any questions that I can answer for you?
I've got one. So with our math situation the way it is, I don't want to assume, but I'm guessing that probably the other core classes fall in about the same category.
You know, our reading data, no, not so much.
Okay.
And I think it's because our system in reading has been stronger and was more, it was more concrete and easier to deliver when we were in distance learning. Teachers feel very comfortable teaching reading. Math is harder for a lot of people to teach, and it was really hard to teach digitally. Okay. Interestingly enough, we thought our kids would have way more digital literacy in terms of test taking for these digital assessments. And today in PLC, I was listening to the conversation in 3 different grade levels, and they found that their students didn't have digital test taking skills as we assumed they would have. So the format of the test and the format of this this new curriculum, I think, will do a better job of helping us prepare for Smarter Balanced when it comes around in the spring. But it will be interesting to see if that's just an assumption my brain is making, or if there will be a strong correlation to that.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, Mrs. Ganfield.
Yeah.
You mentioned Playworks. It sounds
Yeah.
kind of interesting. What is that all about?
Playworks is a company that originated in California, and we contract. In the past we've contracted with the organization out of Portland, and they are all about engaging students in play and showing them the value of play. So instead of just managing a playground, our adults are engaging with students. It involves our PE teachers to teach different games and teach them how to play the games by the rules. And then that becomes the feature game of the week out on the playground. And so what you end up doing is you end up structuring your playground into different zones where different games are being played. And you also teach them conflict resolution. So that when a kid, there's no judges. And so Foursquare becomes, if there is a conflict and somebody says, I'm out and I don't think I'm out, we Rochambeau or rock it out, and it's best out of one. And then I get back in line and I get another opportunity. It takes traditional games and puts new twists on them. And there's a lot of carryover with some things that can happen in the classroom. It also gives our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, no, just our 4th and 5th graders, a chance to be junior coaches, and they go out at recess and help the littles learn how to play the games, learn how to play by the rules, and learn how to do conflict resolution. When we engaged with them 7 years ago, we saw a huge increase in referrals at recess time, a huge decrease, sorry.
Decrease.
Yeah.
It's a great program. I'm excited.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Or Cindy, are we seeing that much more from conflict resolution from kids now versus pre-pandemic? Like noticeably, measurably more?
Yeah, part of it is so many of the kids were home unsupervised. So many of the kids were home with siblings. We are seeing a lot of really rough play, not intended to be intentionally harmful. It ends up being harmful. But it's just been the lack of structure. We also our fall conference time was super revealing in the stress that COVID put on our families and how many of them ended up homeless. We've had more DHS calls in the first 2 months of school than we did in the previous 2 years. And we knew we were losing kids when they were home alone. We are now starting to see the impact of that.
Okay. And can you tell me what the children's farm home is?
Yes, it is Trillium's residential therapy school. And so it's down in Corvallis, and it offers different therapeutic settings. So one of our students is down there. It might be a 6-week stay. It might be a 9-week stay. We provide transportation, but their entire school day is down there. Their IEP, if they have one, would then be managed by the Lynn Benton County ESD, and their day is based hugely around therapy, and they are learning to generalize their skills through therapy and then re-enter a school situation in a safer manner.
Okay.
I just wanted to make one comment, Brett, that Cindy, thank you for everything. I appreciate the significance of the math achievement statistics. That is a jaw-dropping, huge, profound challenge. I will be listening to you carefully in the future, wanting to know what we can actually do to put our money where our mouth is. I'm not an expert on anything. I read enough articles to think that if we don't shore up those gaps in the very early years, we end up paying huge prices for that all the way through. So I am very, very, very concerned that we put the right emphasis on filling those gaps at the elementary level. Thank you.
You bet. I was trying to convince my teachers that this is just new baseline data, right? Like it's just our new baseline, because they see these results and they go, oh, like it's a huge undertaking, but we are already starting to see growth just by being in a stable school situation again.
Yep. Terrific.
Good job, Cindy.
Thanks.
Gosh.
Any other questions? Nope. All right. Thank you, Cindy. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay, G, Cascade Opportunity Center Principals Report. And that's going to Ms. Thompson.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight and listening and reading all of our reports. You have mine in front of you, so does anyone have any questions?
I do have a comment. You said in your report that we have 90.4% of the students feel safe and accepted at school versus 23%. I don't have it right in front of me, I apologize, but the statistic was very positive in favor of the school. So I appreciate that and thank you for showing us that.
Yeah, it was kind of revealing to us. And again, like a lot of the other buildings are reporting, students are really wanting to be back at school. And just from our attendance numbers from last spring until now kind of reveals some of that for us as well. And just as that whole normalcy begins to happen for our schools, I think that they're feeling, like, okay, life is kind of turning around and kind of getting some sort of normalcy happening. And so there's a little bit of safety and security just in that. But I really would like to shout out to my staff as well. I have a very small student body, and I have 2 teachers in my building who have really stepped up these last couple of months. Our secretary had to resign for personal reasons, and so that just means everybody has to step in and wear more hats. So my teachers have not only been involved with attendance and tracking attendance for students, but they've also, take on the roles of counselors sometimes. They are now doing live teaching second period of each session. And so they've had to be very flexible with that. And on top of all of that, the stuff that they kind of have to do, they voluntarily do extra things for our students. Like they came to me and really wanted to do a fall party for the students, and they just really made it fun for everybody. And so not only do they do what they're supposed to do, but they also have taken on some extra duties as well as even more just to make school an enjoyable place for our students. And so hats off to them. I'm so glad that they are part of our staff. And one teacher is a brand new teacher to teaching, and the other one has taught in an alternative school setting before. So they came already having the desire to reach students who struggle with school in general. So shout out to them. I don't know what I would do without them. And then also I'd like to give a shout out to our new the Cascade School District Family Advocate, Kathleen Rasmussen. And she has really worked hard at developing relationships with our students. And it's a really significant thing for our students who generally, they don't do well meeting new people, but she has really stepped in. One example is this last year for summer school, she voluntarily joined us for an outing that we did at the Salem Ropes course. And it was definitely out of the comfort zone for us, but she jumped right in there and just went up to the tallest tree and just scampered across the tiniest rope and just did all these things. And because of that, she came into the fall with students who already were familiar with her, already gained that trust. And so we've been able to supply clothing for students that are homeless. We've been able to kind of provide just basic needs for some of these kids that don't have it. Just looking forward to even more supports that we can give our students. So shout out to all these people. We have such a wonderful environment this year for our school, and it's not because of anything I did, but because of the people that I have around me. So I just want to just show my appreciation to them. Any other questions?
Any questions? I'll ask one more question. You showed that you have an 85.06% attendance rate. I mean, I'm assuming we'd love to have 100%, but what do we expect, or what is the what's the state goal for us to have in attendance?
The state goal, I'm not sure if I know exactly what the state goal, I'm sure, again, it's going to be 100%.
Probably 100.
Yeah. So we're always looking for that, the highest achievement. So,
Sure.
you know, I know that other buildings have pretty good attendance as well, but just talking with Ann Yunker, she said that we're getting right up there with the other buildings, which
Okay.
says a lot for our student population, because there's a reason why they are credit deficient.
Right.
And last year didn't make it easier for them. So going from about 66% last spring to 85, you know, within the last couple months, I think says a lot for the students and the family, the staff, and just
Right.
what we've got going on over there. So I would like to continually see it grow. So as long as we don't have any ice storms or fires or any natural disasters, because usually the pattern was if we're out for a week, it takes at least that long to get them back into
Right.
school. So
Right. So would it be fair to say we're pleased with where we're at? There's always room for improvement, but we're pleased with where we're at.
yeah, I'm good with that. You know, I'm never going to be happy unless it's right up there and that we
Sure.
see results, kids. And, you know, students are already finishing classes and we've got, you know, a couple more weeks till the end of the trimester. So I'm really glad to see a lot of our students that are already catching up with their credits. So I'm just looking forward to seeing more of that happen.
Excellent. Okay. Any other questions? Nope. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, moving on. We've got discussion and communication. 7A is personnel. Ms. Moorfield.
Hi, good evening. We have one resignation for you this evening. It's Angela Johnson, and she was our special education teacher at Turner Elementary. And then we also have several new hires that I'm bringing to you this evening for approval. Because we have such a substitute shortage, we decided that it would be beneficial for the district if we had just a temporary substitute teacher coming to the junior high and high school campuses every single day. And that way we can use that person to cover classes. We have the fill rate for our subs is not good. Any given day, we probably have, I don't know, 10 to 15 positions that aren't filled. Not all of those are teachers, but we have had our admin covering lots and lots of classes. So we hired Lissa Bales for our temporary secondary substitute teacher. Ashley Nunn is our temporary third grade teacher at Turner Elementary, and this is a new position that we added because of the growth at Turner. Brian Razzo is a temporary counselor at the junior high, and that is a replacement for somebody who left. And then we have Rio Solano, who's our temporary choir teacher, and that is also a replacement for somebody who will be leaving.
Hey, Don, are we, of the substitutes we used to have, let's say 2 years ago, are we being outcompeted? They're going to other districts, or are those folks just flat not interested in subbing anymore?
So 2 years ago, I want to say 2019, there were over 8,500 subs across the state of Oregon.
Okay.
It's down to about 4,200.
Ouch.
Yeah. We are not alone in having difficulties filling positions and getting substitutes. It is statewide. There are a couple of remedies. One is, we have the option of having people who have a restricted or have a bachelor's degree. They can apply for a restricted sub license and substitute for Cascade. So we've got 3 or 4 people that are currently working on that. It takes about 7 weeks for them to get fully licensed. And then the state of Oregon, TSPC, which is the licensing agency, Teacher Standards and Practices Commission, they came out with a rule that basically said, if you are 18 years old, you've got a high school diploma, but you don't have a bachelor's degree, you can work with a local school district and you can apply for an emergency teaching license because it's bad. It's a dire situation. The problem with that is that within the rule, it did not allow third-party employers to hire these teachers that had emergency licenses. We use EduStaff, who contracts with the Willamette ESD. They hire all of our substitutes. So that was a glitch that they just finally were able to work through. So my hope is that we've got some student teachers that are currently working in the buildings that we can get them set up to be an emergency substitute. The district pays for that and we, kind of support them. And that hopefully will give us a few more options during the school year.
Okay.
It's actually, a problem across the whole United States. When I went to DC back at the beginning of October for a national personnel conference, that's all people talked about. They talked about the difficulties in hiring teachers, filling positions, substitutes. It's a nationwide issue.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So Ms. Moorfield, so I'm just trying to understand, I think I understand. So you basically retained a full-time temporary substitute teacher, more or less.
Correct. Yes. So they are not, it's going to start second try. So she will no longer be employed by EduStaff. She'll be employed by Cascade, and she will just come to the junior high and high school every day. And if we've got a position that needs to be filled, that's where we're going to put her.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Okay. Any other questions? Nope. All right. Thanks, Ms. Moorfield. Appreciate it. Moving on to B is board policies. First reading, Mr. Drill.
So there's just a small number of board policies. There's actually 42 or 43. These are the ones that come out after a legislative session. So when people say to you, oh, a lot didn't go on with education at the legislature, that's not true. This is exactly why Oregon School Boards Association, COSA, OEA, OSEA have lobbyists, right? We look at how the adjustments begin to happen with regard to particularly our policies and procedures. These are the first round. We obviously, as a board, you guys go through them twice before we adopt them. So really for the first time around, take a look at them. If there's something that really makes your heart stop, let me know. But I will tell you that about 85% of them have been, well, all of them have been vetted by the attorneys at Oregon School Boards Association. About 85% of them are required by law that a statutory change or an administrative rule change happened. And so they need to be adjusted. And so they hand us an updated one. Many times the updated ones are changes in words from a court case or from a federal rule or regulation. So they make those changes. And so I think I want to say it's about 85% of them are required. 15% left. I would say 13 to 14% of the remainder are highly recommended. And only 1 or 2 of those were like optional, where if we had that policy already, we made the adjustments and we handed those out. And of course, I go through each and every one of those. It takes up a little bit of time. Cheryl then goes through each and every one of those and fits it to the policy that we already have. So if you end up have any questions now, we can click on it and take a look. My suggestion, however, is to take a look at those. If you have questions, give me a holler. If you have questions during our next board meeting, we can take a look at those as well before you guys approve them. Thoughts or comments on that?
Nope. I guess we're good.
Okay. Let me know.
All right.
Feel free to give me a call. There's a lot of them there, but again, that's about the right amount based on having the legislature finish wrapping up in July. It takes them about 3 to 4 months to have legal counsel go through them and then get them out to us.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you for that. Moving on, we've got 7C OSBA elections. Mr. Drill.
So the elections for your leadership for Oregon School Boards Association in that packet, those are the ones that affect our area. And I think there's just one person per position. My recommendation is they volunteered, so my recommendation is to approve those guys this evening and move forward.
All right, fair enough. Then we'll move on. Any questions on that, anybody? Nope. Okay, we'll move on to 8A at a glance profiles, Mr. Thatcher.
Good evening, everyone. Hopefully you have the at a glance profiles in front of you, which is informally known as the state report card. Should be one for each school and as well as one for the district. Typically, those give us some great data. And in fact, last year we didn't even have the state report cards because no one was in school, so the state took a hiatus on it. This year, we're moving back to the state report cards, although they're a little thin in terms of information because obviously some things didn't happen. For example, the state assessments didn't happen last year. So in each of the elementaries and the middle school, you have some data, which is basically the demographic data and then self-report about some of the things we're doing in schools. But in terms of state assessments and reading and math, et cetera, that's not on there. There's a little bit more information at the high school level, if you want to take a look at that, and the Opportunity Center. If you click on the high school one, for example, they have different measures, which aren't just state assessment data. That could be kind of that freshman on track to graduate, and on-time graduation. So you can see our freshmen on track to graduate is above 95%, where the state average last year was at 74%. So even in a COVID year, our teachers and counselors did a fantastic job in keeping our freshmen on track through some extra things we did after school and in summer, and just really staying connected to our freshmen. So our freshmen, it's the highest it goes is 95. It was actually about 96% for freshmen on track. Then our graduation rate, 93% as a high school there. Again, the high school, this is from a year ago. They're always a little bit late, 1 year late on graduation, 93% versus the state average of 83%. And then a 5-year rate in college going, et cetera. So there's a little bit more information on that one. And then in the Opportunity Center as well. Then there's the district page, which includes a combination of everything that's in the high school for the graduation rate and the on track, and also everything that's in the Opportunity Center. All those kids, especially some of the kids that we picked up that were online only, which was quite a bit more in last year, as you recall, than in a normal year. And that's all included in the district-wide profile. So even though there's not a ton of data in there, because again, there was no state assessments, especially in grades 3 through 8, at least it kind of gives you an idea of where we're headed at the upper grades for sure. Questions about any of those?
Hey, Mr. Thatcher, I will ask this. I thought it's kind of interesting that if I looked at the Almsville, Cloverdale, and Turner, the number of students per teacher, each one of those fell, just pure average. I know classes vary a bit, but it was 19.2, 19.75, and 19.83 students per teacher. So it's pretty even if you just look at the big picture math for students to teachers at each of the elementary levels.
Absolutely. I think we've tried to do a great job in terms of balancing class sizes as much as possible. Sometimes at the smaller school, it gets skewed a little bit, like at Cloverdale. If you only have, let's say, one first grade teacher, it happens to be a big class like it is this year, then you have a class of 30 because you only have one group of kids. But it really hasn't been the class sizes as much as it's been the shrinking of space. And of course, adding an additional 3rd grade teacher in turn is going to help. And then adding additional 4 classrooms in Turner is going to help tremendously. So we've done as good a job as we possibly can balancing class sizes, but we were just kind of running out of room, which at least these 4 modulars will help in the short term for sure.
Good.
Any other questions about the report card? Great.
Nope. All right. Thank you, Mr. Thatcher. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on to 8B is elementary and secondary school emergency relief funding, and that is Mr. Thatcher.
Hello again. So also I'm going to be kind of in charge of monitoring, filling out forms and applying and reports for the ESSER funds, which again are federal funds based on COVID. This is the ESSER 3 grant, the 3rd iteration, which is actually a 3-year grant that is approximately about $4.5 million. This first year, we're only going to spend about $1 million in these categories. So there are two slides you have there. One is like a honeycomb slide that that really clearly shows how we're going to spend the money that Madeline put together, which is outstanding. Before we get to that, the summary basically outlines the broad areas we have to spend the money in. And so that is adaptable instruction, figure out ways to get kids the instruction they need, like extra time after school, summer school, things like that, so kids can access, like Mrs. Ganfield mentioned, right? We're all behind in math. What are we going to do to catch these kids up? So adaptable instruction, extra time and attention, again, also outside of the day, tutoring, things like that. Conditions for teachers. What can we do to give teachers support in terms of curriculum and extra training and extra avid and extra time to be able to meet the needs of teachers? The fourth one is relationships and mental health, right? In all this, kids are coming back to school and have been through the ringer of the last 18 months. How can we continue to support kids in their mental health? And then the last one, the fifth priority that the federal government gave us, is family and community partnerships. So somewhere in the next 3 years, we have to touch on all 5 of those, and at least 20% has to be for lost learning. So those are the areas that we're going to be touching on. The vast majority of our resources will be on actually unfinished learning is the official word. And so this first year, we're targeting about $1 million. This has been submitted to ODE. It hasn't been approved yet, but I'm 99% sure that these will be the areas that we, broadly speaking, will be supporting our kids over this next first year. And again, adjusting as we go, and then also putting together a budget for years 2 and 3. As you can see, there's extended hours for tutoring and after school support. Madeline's going to put together a quarterly newsletter, summer program. We had additional summer resources this last year. That grant probably will not happen. So the summer program that we plan for 2022 will come out of this grant. Mental health support for staff and a sick bank if staff are out because of a school-related COVID event, additional counseling and mentoring sources, experiential learning, some transportation, some additional tech, and you can see outdoor education and supplemental reading materials for some special ed. Those are the broad categories of how we're going to continue to support these kids, again, in those 5 areas as identified by the federal government. And then there'll be quarterly reports that we have to prove that we're spending and show progress and show data that this is actually having an impact on kids. But I do think we have a great initial plan here for this first year. Any questions about ESSER? Certainly, I'm always available to talk about it anytime, but if you have any questions now, shoot.
Any questions?
Just maybe I missed it. How are the funds being allocated in all those slots? Do you say, Mr. Thatcher?
So I'm not sure on your question, but besides that honeycomb, there's a grant summary page that outlines on the bottom of that page, the 5 broad areas. So that's adaptable instruction, time and attention, extra time, like tutoring outside of the school day, relationships and mental health support, family and community partnerships. Those are the 5 broad areas.
I'm looking at the honeycombs.
Mm-hmm.
All the different monies allocated into these areas that look really good. I was just wondering where those come from specifically.
Oh, so how we decided on that?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so that's a great question. So again, going back to the summary, it had to be in those 5 broad areas that we mentioned.
Right.
That was not up for debate. But also, if you remember, we did a ton of community and staff and student input for the SIA grant, which Dawn Morfield is going to be talking about that first year of it. She's going to do an annual report. So we really surveyed the needs of our community based on the last 18 months, based on data, based on surveys, based on input from teachers and students and community. And a lot of that was taken care of when we first tried to decide how we're going to spend our SIA dollars. So what Oregon said is, don't reinvent the wheel. You already know what your needs are. Just make sure you use that information as you begin applying it to these ESSER funds as well. So again, Dawn Moorfield was covering SIA and other people, all of us are, but basically the reporting, and then I'll also be doing SIA and ESSER moving forward. But that's where we did the needs assessment, was with SIA. And as long as we fit into those 5 broad categories, we'll be able to use those federal dollars for those same needs. So good question.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Nope. All right. Thank you, Mr. Thatcher.
You bet.
Moving on is C, Student Investment Act Annual Report. And it looks like that's going to Ms. Moorfield.
Yep, that is me. So I'm finishing up the first year of the student investment account reporting. And then Matt will be continuing on for future years. So one of the things that we needed to do to close out the 2021 school year and the student investment account was to, number one, we have to submit our budget, make sure that we've spent all the money, and we did. We successfully spent all of our money. Then we had some questions that we needed to answer, and that's what is included in your board report tonight. And this is the annual report questions. And it's really asking us to reflect on the last year and think about how we prioritized what we were going to spend our money on, because number one, it was COVID. Number two, our funding was decreased. And so we had to have a conversation as an admin group about, what are the priorities going to be? What are the things that we are going to not do this year? And what are the things that we are going to do this year to help us meet our goals? We really didn't have to do a lot of significant revision on our student investment account plan. It really was just kind of cutting back, mostly on hiring people. We were still able to work on meeting our goals with respect to getting things in place so that we can have the multi-tiered system of support for math and for ninth grade on track. That comes with, purchasing the math curriculum and purchasing intervention materials, having teachers go to some professional development in the late summer. We also, part of our money, we were also able to help fund the summer learning program. That was important for the social emotional learning and that connection to our staff and our students, and to get our kids ready to come back to school. We also were able to continue focusing on the AVID strategies and getting more of our staff trained. Some of the AVID training that took place was electronic via Zoom. So probably not as great as what we've had in the past, but we were still able to participate in those activities. The second question really asked us to talk about what were the barriers or challenges to the SIA implementation that would be helpful for our community to know. And one of the biggest challenges that we're going to continue to face is recruiting, hiring, and retaining the staff that we need in order to help us meet our goals. We were able to hire math coaches, which is huge for the upcoming school year. One of the other problems that we have is one of our focuses is on social emotional learning. And because there is a lack of mental health services and mental health professionals out there, it is really difficult for us to be able to access that type of help for our kids. And it's even more difficult for us to hire the counselors that we need so that we can help our kids with the social emotional learning. I think moving forward, as we are continuing to implement the pieces of our plan, it is really staff heavy. In other words, we are really focused on trying to make sure that we have enough support staff available so that we can meet our goals and help our students. And that's going to be another barrier. We even have difficulty hiring instructional assistants to help provide support. The third question had to do with ongoing engagement with focal students, the families of focal students and educators. We've involved our union all along in all types of our discussions. We did, the very first year as we were planning our student investment account plan. We did have community forums where we had, you know, parents and community members show up so that we could talk about the student investment account. One of the barriers and challenges that we have is, number one, we're a rural community. The schools are really the center of the community. We don't have, you know, the large community centers, et cetera. Our turnout for those events were low, even though we, you know, we sent personalized invitations to our focal groups. Talking about the student investment account at board meetings is another way that we can get information out to our families. So I think with the revision of the SIA plan, because we didn't have to do a huge revision, we didn't really have to go back to our community. The only way that we could prioritize was to take away the staff piece and focus on the things piece. And that really had to do with question number 4 is, yeah, we're not able to focus on the staff piece for the 2021 school year. So let's focus on what we can do and how we can spend our money so that we can meet our goals. Do you have any questions?
How much money did we have to spend this year?
I believe it was around $651,000. I don't know if Scott's still on here, if
that
he
is
recalls.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Wow. And expectations for next year? Do we have any? Do we know?
Yes, we have our plan.
1.9.
What?
1.9 million. And we had to submit that in the, I think, late summer, how we were going to spend that money. And most of that money is allocated toward staff.
Oh my gosh. We've never had that kind of money.
I know, right?
I mean,
you get it and then you're like, I don't know, we got to spend
how
this.
do you even spend that? I mean, thank you for spending it, but my goodness.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Wow.
It's a real concern. It's difficult. I mean, it's an interesting problem to have, but it's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So Dawn, how many years will we get this?
We have a 3-year plan. The student investment account money is supposed to be ongoing, but I don't know how much we'll get every year. So the plan that we initially submitted was a 3-year plan. So we finished 2021. Now we've got 21, 22, and 22, 23 to focus on the goals that we wrote in the initial plan.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Brett, don't forget that every school district gets this money, right? It was the ballot measure that passed a couple of years ago.
Right.
Every school district gets this kind of money. And the goal is to make sure that we spend it right. Dawn has done a great job. Matt's going to take over. Scott's been helpful financially. You've got to make sure that we spend it as smartly as we can. It is a lot of money, Karen. It's just not the kind of money we used to see at all, right? And school districts for years have been trying to figure out how to spend no money and get as much as we can out of it. And so suddenly the challenge was, how do we spend this much money and not squander it, not just just dump it down the drain without getting something out of it. And
Right.
proud of this group of people because they worked really hard to try to connect to our community a couple of years ago, right before COVID hit. And we wrote down a lot of information. We asked lots of teachers. We've asked lots of administrators, how does this look? What would be the best things we could use the money for? And we have found that these are the areas that our community really needs. So I'm hopeful that every biennium we'll see this money. If the economy goes well, we will see it go up. If the economy doesn't go well, it will flatten out or go down a little, but there will be an amount of money each and every year going forward for schools.
Thanks for the hard work of spending our money the right way.
Well, it's going to be needed. There's going to be no question,
yeah.
right? This was stuff that, we would just kind of shake our head in the past and go, wish we had that kind of money to
Right.
work on these specific things. And as you can see in here, right, lots of making up areas, math, English, extra tutoring time, lots of help after school, before school, lots of social emotional help. We knew all along that we had kids that were in crisis, families that are in crisis. And this allows us, as you heard earlier with Kathleen Rasmussen and others, right, to already help kids that's not that they're not prepared for school, but that's not what they're thinking about. They are thinking about, am I going to get food tonight? Where am I going to sleep?
Right.
Is my family going to be intact? Is somebody going to end up in jail? Those are the issues. And so these kinds of things can help us really help those kids, right, be focused in those areas.
Right.
Okay, any other questions? Nope. All right. Thank you, Ms. Moorfield. Appreciate it. All right, moving on is D, student transfer breakdown for 21-22. Mr. Drill.
So you see, if you'll open up the transfer piece of it, we've been talking about this for a couple of months now. And obviously, when you are in a place where you start to feel full, questions start being asked about incoming and outgoing students. And we talked a little bit last month about the reality is 8 or 9 years ago, when everybody was hurting financially, the incoming folks really helped us financially survive some very lean and tough years. And Ruth can tell you, and Karen and Brett, you guys were around. David, I think you caught the tail end of it, that, still cutting 12 to 14 days on contracts and not having kids go to school wasn't fun at all. But without some of the incoming students, it would have been worse. So this for you is a breakdown, as we talked about, for the 21-22 school year. And I want to make one adjustment first. In the middle where it says from the totals above, under the outgoing, it says 38. That number should be 72. It should match the number from the upper columns. Okay. We just didn't, for whatever reason, we missed the typo there. So if you add out those outgoing in that line, it'll add up to 72. So what you have now in front of you is two things. One is it shows you exactly where all these kids are coming from and where they're going to. It also shows you that since we talked a month ago, we have added about 11, 12 more kids. We found a couple as well, not only in the incoming, but the outgoing as well. We also did not in that last month's thing, because it wasn't asked about charter schools. It was asked about what districts did kids go to. And we thought in terms of brick and mortar type schools. So we also added the charter school thing so you could see that as well. So for the 21-22 school year, 140 kids have come into Cascade outside of our district and 72 have gone out. So there's about 68 difference. We're a positive 68 kids. Any of the other additions to our district, those folks had moved in and are living in our district. So that's the makeup of how it is we've grown size-wise. And then the middle column, it says totals from above, how many kids have come into Almsville, how many are outgoing. Cloverdale shows, Turner it shows, junior high, and then high school. And then also from the Opportunity Center. It gives you an idea of where the kids are, where they're going from. When we have people say, man, there's just a ton of kids that go into Turner, there are based on its size, but also remember that 24 kids incoming for 1 year out of 400 isn't quite the large percentage that we've talked about in the past. Over the course of 4 or 5 years, yes, there's a lot of them, but after 1 year, the state of Oregon considers any transfer kid to you your kid. So you take on those kids, and the only time we have a double check is when kids go from kindergarten through 5th grade. And once they get done at 5th, we ask them to re-up their request for 6th through 8th, and then we ask them to re-up their request again 9th through 12th based on size. And then the final piece down below shows the Intra District. We also have questions about, well, our kid transfers from Almsville to Turner or Cloverdale, that makes it more crowded for us. But as you see, right, it kind of goes back and forth. The majority of these parents are asking for transfers, one, because they have a parent that works in one of those schools. 2, they have a daycare issue. They're in Almsville, they work on the southeast side of the valley. They work in Albany or they work somewhere else. It is easier for them to pick up their kid in Cloverdale or Turner. The opposite is true. You see some incoming kids to Almsville And it's sometimes, well, we live in Salem or we live in Cloverdale and I got to take my kid to Amsoil because I work in Staten. So that's kind of how that balances out as well. So we want to make sure that you see this, other than the typo there where it shows 38, where it says 72. Do you have additional questions about that?
Hey, Darren, I'd like you to clear one thing up you just said. So on this, let's just look at the top line of the totals. We've got 140 incoming, 72 outgoing. And that's just for this year, because you said if they did it last year, let's assume it was normal last year. Once they're here for a year, they fall off this list.
Correct.
So this is just the new kids in and our kids out on year one. And then we start over again next year. So if we have a net gain of 68 this year, that slate's wiped clean. And if it looks just like this next year, that's a net gain again of 68.
From just the correct, from the inter-district transfer thing. So the question was, right, do we continue at this rate or do we slow it down?
Well, let me ask you this. Can you tell us the net of all kids, not just this year's, but even once they fall off this chart? How many kids in our district are transfers in total?
I'd have to go back and take a look. And after so many years, right, particularly in elementary, then they move to middle school, it kind of gets mixed in.
Right.
I'm not trying to elude your question. I'm just saying that it becomes,
a
little more difficult to follow. We can track 4 or 5 years in a row. Right. But I will say it goes up because 4 or 5 years ago, we were still dealing with the recovery from the Great Recession.
But since they fall off of this list, and I'm not beating you up here, I understand.
No, it's okay.
Talking, but because they fall off this list after 1 year and they become ours and we start over, there truly could be a pretty large portion of our student body that is transfers at some point in their career and then have become ours.
Right.
Okay.
Correct. And the flip side of it is people were like, well, yeah, we're full. This is ridiculous. You shouldn't have had this many kids come in. At the same time, the programs, the things that we talked about tonight, the money that we get is based on the number of kids we have. So it's an interesting balance. Right. So you got to figure out how to balance it. People are like, you shouldn't worry about the money. Well, if I didn't worry about the money, you guys would be worried about the money.
Exactly.
And, a couple of you have been around long enough and Ruth worked here long enough to know when there's no money, it's tough.
It's not as fun.
So now if the balance is, we feel like this is too many incoming, we need to shrink that. Okay, we need to talk about that. The outgoing is about the same, particularly as you see the charter school numbers go up, right? I mean, more and more people are choosing a charter school choice for their kid, even though, right, if you do some research on charter schools, their graduation rate is nothing near what Matt just shared with you with regard to our high school or with regard to our alternative school, to our opportunity center. So why people choose that might be for specific personal reasons, right? But if they're going to tell me or you that it's for academic reasons, sorry, the data doesn't work. That just doesn't fly. There are so many kids that do poorly. As a matter of fact, sometimes we end up with kids that have been at a charter school, come back, and then they don't graduate. They're so far behind. So we're going to continue to get those folks. It is what it is. Those are choices that families get to make. I totally understand it. But as we go forward into the next year and we start talking about inter-district transfer kids, right? I want to make sure that you see that and you can help us make some decisions about how many are we talking about.
So when we have those discussions in the future, would it be possible to get us some, they don't have to be drilled down to the individual, but maybe ballpark numbers on big picture, how many kids are transfers long-term? Because again, I understand what this is, but because they fall off and this is only, the 1 year, it doesn't give us maybe a full representation of what we're looking at for the overall student body here.
Absolutely. We can do that.
Okay. I think that'd be interesting to at least just see that.
Okay.
I think so too.
I do too.
Other questions?
Thanks for doing this.
Absolutely. You guys asked for it. We can certainly try to dig it out and get it. We've had a couple other parents ask for it as well. And so they can take a look at it. But again, there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle. It's not just, hey, there's just too many kids.
Yeah.
It does equate to $9,300 per kid. So how do we balance that out? How do we find that balance?
Mm-hmm.
Right. No, there's certainly upsides to it also.
Right.
Very much. Okay. Any other questions on that? All right. Thank you, Mr. Drill. Moving on to 8E is COVID case report. Mr. Drill.
So, excuse me, the next piece of paper there that you see in front of you on the screen is our COVID positive cases. We were unable to get you the quarantine cases. We'll get that next time. I apologize. A little bit of a slip up on my part about what we're asking for. So I need to be more clear next time. But I wanted to make sure that you saw the beginning, the lower one, 9/7 to 10/7, the first month, essentially of the number of COVID cases. I think it adds up in the low 60s of the actual cases that we had for COVID across our district. And this includes adults and students, right? So you got to take the 2,560 students plus the 308 or 9 employees and add them together. And then from 10/8 to 10/31, which is the next marking period for you guys for board reports, that the numbers have fallen not quite to half, but they're working their way down. And you can start to take a look that the numbers are much better. It'll be interesting in November. When I've gone and dealt with the governor's office or the off the record meetings for all superintendents, I will be in one tomorrow. They will give us an update. Oregon Health Authority will give us an update, and then their belief about what happens in the next 3 to 5 weeks. They have a number of trends that they follow, and then they try to norm it and find a middle ground. That's kind of what they followed all along. There are two sets of beliefs. One is the Delta variant is slowly receding and the numbers will come down because of the number of people that have had their shots, their immunizations, and have also had COVID and have some immunity to that temporarily, that they believe that the numbers will stay down. There's another bank of doctors that think that because we are heading into winter and more of us will be indoors, that the numbers will go back up again. Not in the same way that Delta came up starting in July and working our way into the beginning of our school year, but there's two kind of schools of thought. I'll be very curious to see what they say tomorrow. And it's a guessing game, but they use lots of models and lots of computers to try to follow it. So we'll see what happens. My hope, obviously, is that the numbers continue to go down. And as I said at the beginning of our meeting, we can start to see some metrics to help us get some changes about how we deal with our students on a daily basis with regard to this. So any questions or comments on this?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Drill.
You bet.
Moving on, number 9 is public comment. Since this meeting is via Zoom due to COVID and the ease of the spread of the Delta variant, all public comments must have been submitted in written form to the board secretary by 3:30 p.m. today. And Cheryl, we have public comments, none, I believe. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, then we will move on. Number 10 is resolutions. Hang on, I'm almost there. 10A, resolution regarding resignation.
Be it resolved, the Cascade Board of Education moves to approve the resignation of Angela Johnson, elementary teacher, as recommended by the administration.
Second.
Agenda item 10A, resolution regarding resignations, has been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 10B, resolution regarding new hire recommendations.
Be it resolved, the Cascade Board of Education moves to approve the hire of Lisa Bells, temporary secondary substitute teacher, Ashley Nunn, temporary third grade teacher, Brian Rozo, temporary counselor, Rio Solano, temporary choir teacher, as recommended by the administration.
Second.
10B, resolution regarding new hire recommendations, has been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 10C, resolution regarding board policies, first reading.
Be it resolved, the Cascade Board of Education moves to approve the first reading of the board policies listed below.
Second.
10C, resolution regarding board policies, first reading, has been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 10D, resolution regarding 2021 OSBA elections.
Be it resolved, the Cascade Board of Education moves to vote for the following candidates in the 2021 OSBA elections. Shall I read those?
Sure, we only have 4.
Anthony Medina, Board of Directors, position 11. Maria Hinojos Pressy, LPC, position 11. Melissa Lacrosse, Board of Directors, position 12. Ashley Carson Cottingham, LPC, position 12.
Second.
10D, resolution regarding 2021 OSBA elections has been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 11 is future agenda items. Mr. Drill, anything there we need to discuss?
I've just written down that as we continue, probably, I'm guessing in the February or March board meeting, as we get ready to make recommendations about inter-district transfers, we'll put some more information out for you guys so you have it and you're ready to go. So in the meantime, we will go back. As you well know, Cheryl, with Oregon School Boards Association, has a list of what should be on each and every monthly agenda. And we'll make sure that all the appropriate stuff should be in the right place at the right time.
Fabulous. Okay.
Perfect.
Anything from anyone else before we adjourn the meeting?
Are we having a meeting in December?
You guys have in the past split that decision. Sometimes you have, sometimes you haven't. There is nothing very pressing on there. You can do the second readings of the board policies in January for sure. The last couple of years you have skipped on the December meeting due to the holidays.
Do we need to decide that right now? Is that something for later? How do we go
You can
about?
do that. You can do that later. You don't need to do it now. I can reach
Okay.
out and decide what you guys would like to do.
Okay, that's fair. Okay. Anything else, anybody? All right, then on that note, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for attending and have a good evening.
Have a good evening,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Night.
Good night.
Bye.
Dan.
Aye.